A warm welcome to all students who are taking part in this writing and reasoning course. In today's class, I'll be giving you a brief introduction and an overview into the importance, especially of reasoning skills, in a talk called The Value of Critical Reasoning Skills in an Era of Transformation. But in doing so, let me just give you a brief introduction of myself so that you can see the context from which I'm delivering these lectures. My name is Joshua Park. I graduated from Harvard Law School as a JD back in 2003. And basically my experience comes from both writing as well as reasoning from that context initially. Relevant experience in terms of writing, I've been a columnist in the past for the Korea Times as well as Jungang Daily, both in the English as well as Korean newspapers. I'm an author of a book called Global Leader Debate is the Answer. It's a Korean book as well as 2 other books, as well as a number of journal articles in the art of reasoning and especially in terms of debating. I'm also the chief adjudicator of this year's World Schools Debating Championships, and I serve on the board of directors of World Schools Debating Championships Limited since I've been serving in that capacity since 2010. I do have over 300 consulting and lecturing experiences for governments, ministries, schools, and businesses in the area of conflict resolution, negotiation, and debate. And that's why from this context, I would like to focus far more on the aspect of reasoning and how that can be realized in a number of settings, as opposed to really going into the nitty-gritties of writing throughout this course. So what do we mean by an era of transformation in the context of applying writing and reasoning? Oftentimes, people are referring to 2 broad contexts nowadays. One is the broad context of Industry 4.0. People talk about the 4th Industrial Revolution being upon us. Another context is post-COVID world. Obviously, many things changed during the COVID era, some for the positive, but many for the negative, and how do we face that kind of world? Just looking at a bit of a context of how people have viewed post-COVID education in terms of a word cloud setting, and this is coming from the Ministry of Education of Korea. 3 broad themes emerged. One is in terms of innovation, oftentimes in the context of spatial or digital or indie projects. Second is in terms of tech. And this applies to things like IT or AI, convergence, edtech, and so forth. But the final thing is human-centeredness. Words like competence, collaboration, adaptability, diversity, and citizenship. In terms of 4th Industrial Revolution, again, key words that come out are things like data or AI, metaverse. But all of these things put together, I would like to say, comes in the context of 1, human 2.0 individuals should be digitally literate. So this is talking about literacy in a different context, where in the past it was about, are you able to read and write? But now we're talking about, are you able to look at digital things and be literate in that context? And the second aspect of being the new human or human 2.0 is about the human aspect, not just the 2.0 aspect, but what really makes us human. And what really makes us human, despite the advancements of AI, is our reasoning skills. So again, in terms of this course, while the course is called Writing and Reasoning, and the writing aspect is important, things like what is expository writing? Okay, what is descriptive writing? Narrative writing, persuasive writing, and so forth. While these aspects are important, by and large, what I'll be focusing upon is the reasoning aspect. And because this is an asynchronous course and much of your work being submitted will be via digital writing format, the writing will be tested naturally as a result. So why am I focusing upon the critical reasoning aspect as opposed to the writing aspect, and focusing upon a debate-based concept? Please take a look at the following names and see what you see in common. Theodore Roosevelt, Woodrow Wilson, Franklin Roosevelt, John F. Kennedy, Richard Nixon, Jimmy Carter, Bill Clinton, and Barack Obama. What do these share in common? Well, it's not that difficult, right? These individuals are all former presidents of the United States. But one thing that you may not have known is that all of these individuals are also former debaters. They debated or were debate instructors either in their high school or in their college years. So this is why I'm able to come up with a very simple formula. Okay, global leaders also are oftentimes great debaters, and vice versa. Individuals who are great debaters oftentimes end up being global leaders as well, having the great deal of critical reasoning and thinking skills that leads them into being such figures. And it's not just me who says these kinds of things. I'd like you to hear from a few quotes from other educational leaders. So the first name that I would like to share is Lawrence Summers. He's the President Emeritus of Harvard University, Director of National Economic Council and U.S. Secretary of Treasury, but also a former intercollegiate tournament debater. And when he was the president of Harvard, something that he publicly stated was that competitive debate not only enhances the capacity for educational advancement, but that debate experience is valued in admission to Harvard. Just think about this statement for a bit. The first aspect of this, the fact that debate enhances someone's creative or competitive critical thinking skills, educational advancement, all of this is maybe something that we might be able to say about a number of things. But imagine the president of Harvard coming out and saying, if you have debate experience, because it leads to greater critical reasoning, critical thinking skills, you will have an advantage when you're seeking admission into Harvard. And let's say that you're someone who is a high school student and you're looking at universities. You might think, what is the top university in my country? If you're from the UK, you might be thinking Oxford or Cambridge. If you're from Korea, you might be thinking Seoul National University. And think, the president or say even the dean of admissions of that school saying, there's one activity that you can do that can get you an advantage in gaining admission into our school. That's not something that you would say lightly, right? And you can say that the president of Harvard saying something like this as one of the most popular and competitive institutions to get into, it does mean something. But it's not just him. We also see the president of New York University, former president of New York University, John Sexton, also a director of National Campaign for Civic Discourse in the US. He was also a former debater and debate coach. And he also stated that tournament debate experience yields the intellectual gifts most ideal for college admission, particularly the capacity to look at multiple sides of a particular position to enhance their critical thinking skills. He believed that those who can competently engage in secondary and tertiary levels of analyses are those who can change the world. And he said this from his own experience. A very interesting quote from him. So he's talking about his experience as a collegiate debater, and he said, "Those 4 years in debate were the educational foundation of everything I did." And I don't mean that in some simple form. I'm saying the finest education I got from any of the institutions that I attended. The foundation of mind that I got during those 4 years of competitive debate, that is 90% of the intellectual capacity that I operate with today. Fordham University for college, Fordham for the PhD, Harvard for law school, all of that is the other 10%. notable, right? So someone who went through the highest levels of training from the best scholars and intellectuals of his generation is saying that that's only 10% of what made up his intellectual capacity. 90% came from his debate experience. And as someone who may not be quite an intellectual giant as he, but someone who went through a similar type of educational track, attending Pomona College at the undergraduate level and attending Harvard Law School, and really learning from some of the best individuals in their fields. While I'm very grateful for all of the education and training that I received from them, while I wouldn't necessarily say 10% versus 90%, I would also agree that much of what I have in terms of intellectual capacity, academic capacity, does come from my own debate backgrounds, both in terms of thinking skills, writing skills, as well as speaking skills. Another quote now from the former Dean of Admissions at Emory University, one of the best universities in southern United States. He also publicly stated that tournament debate experience is one of the best single indicators of college success because it develops skills of critical thinking, research, and public presentation of scholarly work. And he also said that debaters are advantaged in seeking admission into Emory. So now you've seen three top schools, Harvard, NYU, and Emory University, that are publicly stating that individuals who have debate experience have an advantage in getting into their programs. But it's not just about educational institutions, although I would say educators and admissions officers, presidents saying these things are quite significant because oftentimes these schools are the ones who are looking at global talent around the world, and they're thinking who among them are best prepared to become some of our best students. So when they say, individuals who have debate experience have the greatest amount of critical thinking skills, critical reasoning skills to be admitted into our college, it does mean something. But we have a number of other studies that we can quote from. Pollock's study of legislators way back in 1982 showed that persons with oral communication skills honed by various forensics events, such as debate or individual speaking events, were more highly regarded by their colleagues in group discussion activity. So again, individuals who are taking a course like this, individuals such as you, even in a context of legislators, these are lawmakers, politicians who might be the best speakers, best writers, oftentimes are advantaged when they have some experience in these kinds of forensics settings. Curtis, Windsor, and Stevens had a study in 1989, a large-scale study attempting to determine what factors most contribute to job search success and what factors contribute to success in a business career. I'm sure you're interested in this because all of you obviously want to get into a good job and not only start off in a good job, but get promoted into higher and higher positions, attain business success, right? Well, one of the things that they found was that oral communication skills ranked first in gaining employment and second to interpersonal skills in successful job performance. So again, what does this mean? Looking at multinational companies, even back in 1989, when these kinds of things were not being paid attention to quite as much, individuals who have these communication skills developed through critical reasoning and debate have a high likelihood of getting into the best job positions, but also becoming higher up, being promoted faster, into successful positions if you have these kinds of skills. Allen et al. In 1995 found that comparing the experience of students with argumentation class against those with competitive debate experience. So I think I can explain this in 4 groups. Okay, so they have a control group, individuals who have no exposure to critical reasoning or debate type of settings, individuals who are just learning argumentation, individuals who are learning debate in a classroom setting, and individuals who are experiencing that in a tournament setting. So what they did find is that obviously individuals with nothing are not as good as individuals who are taking an argumentation or reasoning class like this. But even greater than them are individuals who experience debate in a classroom setting. And then finally, individuals who experience debate in a tournament setting are the greatest of all. So something that I would like you to take away from this is don't stop at this class. What I would like you to experience is take advantage of debating in extracurricular activities and try to experience that kind of a tournament setting in itself, in addition, after you take this course. Collier's study in 2003 also showed that debate experience and this kind of critical reasoning training has a dramatic impact in another area that is very relevant to studies, and that is reading scores. So in their large-scale study where they compared students with this kind of experience versus students without this kind of experience, showed that individuals who had this kind of experience improved by 25% more than individuals without this kind of experience. So again, we can see the broad aspect and broad array of impact that training in critical reasoning in a debate context can have.